Before you judge my children, listen to me for 1 minute. I'm not here to complain. I am here because silence gets heavy when you grow old. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is this: I raised 3 children with these same hands you see shaking now. I skipped meals so they could eat. I stayed awake through sickness, through fear, through winters with no heat, and one day, they told me it would be better if I stayed somewhere else. Just for a while, they said. I believed them. I packed one small bag, I locked the door of the house I helped build, and I walked into a place where no one knew my name. What happened next was not what any mother expects at the end of her life. Let me tell you how it really began. Still remember that morning very clearly. Old people remember beginnings better than endings. The sunlight came through the kitchen window the same way it always had, dust floating in the air, quiet, gentle. I was sitting at the table, folding the same sweater I had folded 100 times before. My daughter stood near the door. My son avoided my eyes. They spoke softly, carefully, like people do when they are afraid of being honest. "Mom, it's just temporary," my daughter said. "You'll be more comfortable there. They'll take care of you, there." Such a small word, carrying so much distance. I didn't argue. When you're a mother long enough, you learn when your voice no longer matters. I asked only one question: "Will you visit?" My son nodded too quickly. "Of course. All the time." I believed him, because believing your children is easier than accepting the truth. The ride was quiet. Cars passed us like they were in a hurry to get somewhere important. I watched houses go by, families inside living lives I no longer belonged to. When we arrived, the building looked clean, great walls, white doors. Smelled like disinfectant and forgotten time. A woman at the desk smiled professionally. She asked for paperwork. No one asked about my life. My daughter hugged me quickly, the kind of hug that ends before it begins. "We'll call," she said. Then they walked away. I sat on the edge of the bed in a room that wasn't mine. 2 beds. One empty, a small window facing a parking lot. That first night, I didn't sleep. Not because of the noise, but because of the quiet. You don't realize how loud love is until it's gone. Days started to blend together. Breakfast trays, medication cups, polite conversations that never went deeper than the weather. I waited for visits. 1 week passed, then 2. No calls. I told myself they were busy. Good mothers always make excuses for their children. One afternoon, an old woman down the hall sat beside me. She asked, "How long have you been here?" I said, "Just for a little while." She smiled sadly. That's what we all say at first. Something broke inside me that day. Still, I kept hope. Hope is stubborn. It survives where logic dies. Then, one evening, a nurse turned on the television in the common room. The news was playing quietly. Numbers. A headline about a winning lottery ticket. I wasn't paying attention, until I heard the city mentioned, and then the store, and then a last name that sounded painfully familiar. My heart started beating faster than it had in years. I leaned closer to the screen, hands trembling, breath shallow, because in that moment, I realized something was about to change, not just for them, but for me. And I did not yet know whether it would bring me back home, or finally teach me how forgotten a mother can become. That night, I could not sleep. The television kept replaying the same headline in my mind, even after it was turned off. A winning lottery ticket, a large amount, enough money to change lives. I told myself it couldn't be them. Life doesn't turn that suddenly, I thought, especially not for people like me. But the next morning, my daughter's name appeared on my phone screen for the first time in months. I stared at it for a long moment before answering. "Mom," she said, her voice lighter than I remembered. So much has happened. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask if I was eating well. She went straight to the news. They had won. Not millions, but enough to buy comfort. Enough to erase worries. Enough to remember family again. "We want you to come stay with us," she said quickly. "You shouldn't be there anymore." There. That word again, this time. I didn't answer right away. I looked around the room. The same great walls. The same quiet hallway. The same women sitting beside me every day, waiting for calls that never came. I asked her a question she wasn't expecting. "Why now?" There was silence. Then she said, Because we can take care of you properly now. I smiled softly, though she couldn't see it. Care doesn't start with money, it starts with presents. When they arrived to pick me up, they brought flowers, new clothes, big smiles. Strangers do that when they feel guilty. I hugged them. I did not shout, I did not cry. Old age teaches you something important. Not every truth needs to be spoken out loud. Back at their house, my old room was gone, turned into storage. They made space quickly, awkwardly. They were kind. Too kind. The kind of kindness that comes from fear of being judged. I stayed quiet, I watched. I listened. One evening, my grandson asked me, "Grandma, why didn't you tell anyone you were lonely?" I took his hand and said, "Because loneliness is not something children should have to fix." A few weeks later, I made a decision. I asked to go back. They were shocked. "But Mom, you don't have to," my son said. "We have room now." I shook my head gently. "I didn't ask for comfort," I said. "I asked for love. And love doesn't arrive only when life gets easier." I returned to that quiet place. But I returned different. I started sitting with the other women longer, listening to their stories, sharing mine. We laughed sometimes, we cried sometimes, and for the first time, I understood something clearly. Being remembered only when you are useful is more painful than being forgotten. My children still call now, they visit. But I no longer wait by the phone, because peace, I learned, does not come from where you are placed. It comes from knowing your worth, even when others forget it. If you stayed with me until the end, thank you for listening to An Old Woman's Truth. On this channel, I share stories like this. Quiet stories. Stories about family, time, and the things we don't say out loud. If you feel these stories in your heart, you may like the video, and subscribe to hear more grandmother stories like mine. Until next time. Take care of those who once took care of you.